Knowing chords on the piano is the key to everything speed related. Knowing chords helps you read music faster, it helps you learn difficult pieces faster, and it also helps you memorize way faster. Are you noticing a theme here? In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you 2 things that you can do to learn every piano chord quickly. Make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video because it's going to be way easier for you to memorize all of the chords if you follow everything I tell you in today's tutorial. So the first thing that you're going to do if you want to memorize every piano chord quickly is use easy formulas to build each chord. Now, I love using formulas to build chords because it works for anyone, regardless of your level, regardless of how much music theory knowledge you have. These formulas can work in 2 different ways. First of all, you could look at like a lead sheet or something like that, and you can see a chord symbol. And using a formula, you could build any of the chords that you're going to encounter when you see a chord symbol. The formula can help you figure out how to build any chord. You can figure out the exact notes that you need to play the symbol that you're seeing. But it can also work in the opposite way, where let's say you're encountering a piece of music and you have some notes and you're trying to figure out if those notes in the piece of music make a chord. You could also clump the notes together and use this formula to see which kind of chord it is. Now, in today's tutorial, I'm going to give you the formulas to build major, minor, augmented, diminished, and 7th chords. So by the time you're finished watching this video, you're going to know how to build all of those kinds of chords very quickly and very easily. Now, these formulas that I'm going to share with you, this is one way that you can build chords. But as I said, I like this way because it's fast and anyone can do it. But one thing that's important to note is that chords exist by themselves out here on their own. And this formula is going to help you figure out how to spell any chord, but it's not connecting the knowledge of chords to other music theory concepts. And the other important thing to know is that chords also exist in relation to a key signature and in relation to each other. And in order to understand chords on that level, you need to study music theory a little bit. So we're going to stay over here in this fast and easy way to build every single chord. But I'd just like to point that out, that if you're getting confused because you're seeing information about chords being presented in a different way, that's because there are several different ways to think about chords. We're going to focus on the fast and easy way. In order to use the formula, you're going to need to know what a half step is. So a half step is from one key to the very next key on the piano with no keys in between. So this is a half step. This is also a half step. Sometimes half steps are from black keys to white keys. Sometimes they are from white keys to black keys. But also in the case of B to C or E to F, they are white keys to white keys. So in order to build a major chord, we are going to pick a starting note. And the formula for a major chord is very easy because we're going to go up 4 half steps and 3 more half steps. Now you can do this anywhere on the piano. You pick your starting note and you count up 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps and then 1, 2, 3 half steps. This is going to get you a root position major chord anywhere on the piano. For a minor chord, you're going to pick your starting note. Let's pick a different starting note. We're going to start on B. And we're going to do exactly the opposite. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. That's a minor chord. So your starting note, 3 half steps, 4 half steps. Any minor chord. Now, a diminished chord, we're going to pick our starting note. Let's pick a different one just for fun. And we're going to do 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, plus 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. That's a diminished chord. Now, a diminished chord is kind of like an extra minor chord because it's made up of the starting note plus 3 half steps plus 3 half steps. An augmented chord is exactly the opposite of a diminished chord. It's almost like a doubly major chord. So we're going to pick our starting note and we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps plus 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. That's going to get you any augmented chord. Now, the cool thing about chords is that they are very unique in that, let's say I build a C major chord, C, E, and G. If I see C, E, and G come up in a piece of music, it's always a C major chord. As long as it's C, E, and G, it doesn't matter if the notes are out of order. It doesn't matter if it's E, G, and C, or G, C, and E. It doesn't matter what order the notes are in. It doesn't matter if, let's say, I have 2 Gs and 1 C and 1 E, or 2 Cs and 1 G and 1 E. all of those are iterations of the same chord, a major chord. So you can see how you can use these formulas to not only build the chords, but also to work backwards, where in a piece of music, if you see A, C sharp, and E, you can put that into the position of a root position chord and say, okay, here's my starting note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I went up 4 half steps and 3 half steps, and that makes it a major chord. So you can use it backwards to figure out what chord you're dealing with in a piece of music if it's not labeled. Okay, let's go on to 7th chords. So for a dominant 7th chord, the way that we're going to think about it is we are going to start with a major chord. Okay, a dominant 7th chord starts with a major chord. So I built a G major chord, and then I am going to add 3 half steps to the top. 1, 2, 3. That is a dominant 7th chord. A major chord plus 3 half steps added on to the top. For a minor 7th chord, I'm going to start with a minor chord, and I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 half steps to the top. For a major 7th chord, I'm going to start with a major chord again, just like our dominant 7th, but I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps to the top. For a fully diminished 7th chord, I'm going to start with a diminished chord, and I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 half steps to the top. For a half diminished chord, I'm going to start with a diminished chord plus 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. That gives me a half diminished chord. Once you get comfortable using the formulas to figure out any chord, the second thing that you can do to memorize all of the piano chords quickly is to memorize for retention. I don't want you to keep using that formula forever, because as long as you're using the formula, you're going to have to take those extra steps every time you see a chord to figure out what the chord is. And this is great in the beginning when you're just starting to familiarize yourself with chords and when you want to be able to unlock any piano chord, but eventually you're going to want to move beyond using the formula every single time. Chords are patterns, and they're one of the biggest building blocks of the musical language. I kind of like to compare it to when you're learning how to read in the English language. You have your letters, that's kind of like your note names. And then you have your intervals, and that's kind of like your really simple words like and or the. And then when we branch out into chords, we're getting into words that are a little bit more complex, but that we should still be able to recognize by sight. So words like he or she, and you'll want to study and memorize the chords until you get it to the point that you can memorize them on sight. Now, oftentimes when I tell this to people, they get really overwhelmed and they think that it's going to take a really long time or that it's going to be very, very complicated, but it's not. As you're working through these formulas, I want you to pick one chord at a time and memorize that chord. Think about it. Even if you were to pick one chord a week, after an entire year, you would memorize 52 chords. And when you start to memorize chords, they jump out at you on the page in your pieces of music. And so all of a sudden, instead of thinking about individual notes when you're reading music, you just start to see chord patterns. And it becomes a lot easier to read music with speed, to learn how to play difficult pieces with speed, and also to memorize with speed. So when you start to focus on memorizing a chord, like I said, you're going to pick one. And I want you to work on memorizing not only the information in your brain, but also how the chord feels and sounds on the piano. So let's take, for example, an A major chord. An A major chord is A, C sharp, and E. And so you can repeat that back to yourself over and over and over again until you remember A major, A, C sharp, E. A major, A, C sharp, E. You can go look through a bunch of music books and look for all of the A major chords. See if you can find all of the A major chords in a piece or in a book. But then also look at the piano and start to actually play that chord on the piano. You can memorize how it feels to play it in both hands. A, C sharp, and E. Play them together, play the notes separately, mix up the notes. You know, let's find all the A's with some C sharps and some E's in the beginning. Some E's in the middle. Matter how you play them. The point is that you are reinforcing how an A major chord sounds, how it feels when you play it, and also what the notes are. A little disclaimer here. If you try to memorize all of the chords at once, you will likely set yourself up to fail because it's going to be way too much to remember at the same time. But if you focus on one at a time, either one per day or one per week or a couple per week, you will have success, and your journey to being able to play fluidly and musically is going to be shortened. You're essentially becoming way more fluent in the language of music when you start to commit these chords to memory. But if you want to know more about patterns in music and how understanding and deciphering these patterns can help you learn better, learn faster, sight read with a lot more freedom and speed and accuracy, check out the link in the description. I recently taught a free class on this very topic. And in this free class, I go even deeper into patterns in music and how they can help you, specifically with sight reading. You can grab that free class in the description below. Now, once you get started memorizing those chords, if you want some practice techniques to help you play chords way cleaner and with way more clarity, check out this video that I did that teaches you exactly how to practice chords so that they sound musical. You can grab the link right here.